Good morning,
Hello,
Caroline.
hello,
Hello.
hello.
Lovely to see you over a cup of tea this morning, Caroline.
And you, Maria, I've got my coffee as well, so I'm just waking
Good.
up.
Good. Thank you, everyone, for joining this morning our live session on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Actually, I'm Maria Dimitrova, and I'm lead auditor ISO 27001. So, uh, I have invited you guys to join us because marketing let me know that there have been inquiries about how cybersecurity can be assured, how compliance may happen, etc. Those are complicated, complex topics. So we decided to answer your questions live. So Caroline is here to ask those in your behalf.
I have got lots of questions, Maria. I hope that you're well prepared. And I hope to be
Uh,
enlightened by the end of it as well. So,
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you for your confidence in what one may or may not know how to answer. Let me just say that we expect your questions live during the session as well. We'll do our best to take any further questions that you might like to ask during the session live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. And if we run out of time, which happens, we'll be happy to answer all your questions via email. At it was, Caroline, remind me the official marketing email
yes,
address, please.
it is. It's marketing@imsm.com. So if you want to send any questions by email, please do so there if you want some privacy. But otherwise, just leave a comment below the live stream because that will pop up on our screens and we can give them to Marie at the end of the conversation. So,
Thank you. So, shall we start?
yes, indeed. Okay, so first question, Maria. In a global and globally connected world, isn't it to be expected that cybersecurity regulations and a common approach to compliance should have been considered much earlier? It seems that governments across Europe, at least, have only recently started to work together. And that was a question we were sent through a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you, Caroline. Indeed, network and information systems and services are essential to modern society. Their security and reliability are crucial to economic and societal activities. More to your point, uh, so a common approach was indeed long overdue when in 2016 the EU published its first piece of regulation on cybersecurity. Now, 5 years on, this initial effort has been further developed. It now translates into national legislations aiming to prevent our connected economy and society from the increasingly sophisticated cyber threats and attacks, which unfortunately are likely to cross borders and actually do so.
Yeah. I mean, it's all you tend to hear these days. I know when I log on to the internet in the morning and I go onto Twitter and have a look for the latest sort of cybersecurity news to post on our social, and it's just relentless. So yeah, it's
I
quite
know.
interesting. Um, so another question: where does the UK stand on this?
Well, fortunately, the UK led by example, we usually do,
Mm.
as an early adopter of the NIS, or Network and Information Systems Regulation. It became UK law on April 19th, 2018, and came into force on May 10th the same year. So the UK law is also, let me say that, one of the European national legislations that clearly states that conformity with the relevant international standards is an obligation to ensure cybersecurity compliance.
So, out of curiosity, I know you did a quite extensive research. Well, you always do anyway, but you did quite a lot of extensive research for some of the cybersecurity questions that we get through. And I know there's about 10 laws I mean, yes, I've got written down 10 national laws. Do you sort of read that in the native tongue, as it were, in the language, or do you read translations? Or because I know you do know a lot of different languages. I was just curious.
Well, you make me blush, Caroline. But yes, sorry. I must confess, I did. I did read the national laws in the original languages, but let me just tell you that I read the national laws in the UK and Ireland, and
Mm,
English doubles the score here. France and Belgium, French helps too to double the score. So we have four countries so far: Spain, Portugal, Italy, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Romania, so 10. And interestingly, all national laws, now more seriously indeed, all national laws I have read do state that conformity with the relevant international standards is an
mm,
obligation to ensure cybersecurity compliance. Um, there are some semantic nuances with regards to the perceived the level of obligation. I mean, for instance, Spanish law says that organizations could demonstrate legal compliance by
mm,
implementing the relevant international standards, whilst other national laws state a higher level of obligation by means of other linguistic figures, if it makes
mm.
sense. As I say, UK law is among the latter.
Mm,
So, summarizing, this regulatory effort is indicative of the importance of the work the ISO technical committees are performing. And
yeah.
in my opinion, we shouldn't be surprised because traditionally, ISO management system standards have been implemented to adhere to best practices.
Mm,
Why? Uh, because these systems allow organizations to operate at a level well beyond that might be strictly compulsory.
yeah, that's a good one. And I've got another question.
Mhm.
So, with regards to which would these standards be? I mean, there's a lot of different standards, so I just sort of need some clarification on that, please.
Thank you, Caroline. One would certainly expect that there are many standards, international standards, but if they do, they would not be entirely correct.
Mm,
The thing is that the only genuinely international organization is the ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. Uh, the ISO is an independent, non governmental international organization with a membership of 165 national bodies.
wow.
And yes, indeed,
Mm,
most importantly, its standards are accepted in states that are yet to join the organization.
mm,
Regarding the second part of your question, the standards, ISO 27001 Information Security and the 22301 Business Continuity are maybe the two major international standards that organizations should consider.
yeah.
Now, both are complex management system standards and enable organizations to meet their regulatory requirements,
Mm,
including, very important, including the responsibilities arising from activities involving third parties, the so-called interested parties.
okay, so, when we talk about a management system standard, how does that help organizations sort of achieve a better compliance, as it were? I hear this quite often, actually. A lot of people ask that. So,
Indeed, and
mm,
this is a complex question.
mm,
ISO management system standards have many benefits, many benefits. I want to highlight the fact that the standards are focused on the organizational environment and on identifying the needs and the requirements of the relevant parties, including, for instance, hackers.
Mm.
They're regarded as interested parties, so what they may like to do to us should be considered to be prevented.
Yeah.
Or let's say that very important organizations that implement management systems in conformity with the applicable ISO standards are more likely also to require that similar systems are implemented down their supply chain, which effectively
Yeah.
improves their performance and legal compliance,
Yeah.
as well as the supply chain performance and compliance.
Yeah, that's a big sorry,
That
that's a big thing at the moment, isn't it? The supply chain. We've seen recently in the news, it's quite prolific across the board, across Europe and the world. So,
indeed,
yeah.
that requirement also
Mm,
translates, because of what you've just
mm,
said, also translates into a risk to those suppliers that cannot demonstrate conformity
yeah,
with the standards. But for those who can, into an opportunity uh, and let's say to win more business via adhering to best practices.
yeah. Sounds like a good thing. I mean, just as a this is just my own thoughts. Sort of going forward, I think anything that we've learnt from recent years, as it were. I can't believe we're talking about years. It's obviously a prerequisite, I would think, just in the minds of people that they really want that stability for their supply chains and they want to know that everything's stable as can be. So, but I'm going to go on to the next question, which I've got written down here. And it says, ever since the pandemic began, we have detected an increased number of organizations inquiring about ISO 27001 and ISO 22301 and about how quickly we could take them on board and help them implement the system. What should organize I can't say it, Maria. It's because I've not had two coffees yet.
Organizations.
Organizations expect when going for such implementations.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. Uh, it is challenging to give an
Mm,
orientation. Indeed, it is. There are as many answers to this question as potential customers or potential companies or potential interested parties. You know, the public inquires about business continuity, cybersecurity, as you've just mentioned. Please excuse me. Today's news are all over our TV screens. So,
mm,
excuse me, a frequent issue that organizations face is the internal need for information and cybersecurity professionals. The whole industry continues to suffer across all sectors from an acute shortage of experts.
mm,
And please believe me, I'm not the first one mentioning the word shortage this
mm,
morning live. So this raises particular concern, at least for me, about how quickly organizations will react and adhere to any information security regulatory frameworks.
yeah.
Um, Here at IMSM, you know that we have a robust methodology which allows us to speed up the process, but organizations need to devote some resources that we could also train and upscale. Upskilling is important nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a complex and challenging situation.
Yeah, it certainly is. And leading on from that, there's another question which is quite relevant, and that is, what reassurance do ISO compliant management systems offer?
Well, from a business continuity and information security perspective, ISO compliant management systems give reassurance to the extent of the scope defined.
Yeah.
That might be parts of the organization, location, size, nature of complexity, products and services. But the most important thing to consider is that a management system doesn't work miracles.
Yeah.
We need to get top management involved, make people aware, demonstrate leadership. Because
Mm,
we get certificates, we're not going to improve. We need to work hard
mm,
to get it every single year and go ahead.
yeah.
Caroline, I've seen a couple of questions popping up on the screen.
Yes, I've noticed some's coming through. Let me just get to them. Yep. We have. Here's one. How does ISO 27001 protect the organization from cyber attacks and regulatory non-compliance?
This is an interesting question. I'd rather avoid giving the short answer because I wouldn't like to be understood wrongly. So I will approach it with caution
Mm,
and say that what actually protects your organization is not the standard itself,
mm,
but your information security management system.
yeah.
Most organizations do have information security management systems, although these may be mature, for instance, based on static checklists limited to a specific country only, such as the Cybersecurity Essentials here in the UK, or ad hoc
Yeah.
organizations. I mean, when organizations react only to address, not to prevent and protect. And ISO 27001, as well the rest of the 27,000 family of standards, which is extensive, offers a solid framework and a set of good practices, probably the most exhaustive set of good practices altogether, that help organizations design, implement,
Yep.
maintain, and continually improve their information security management systems. It is also a certifiable standard, meaning that should organizations need to evaluate their system performance, they could invite a third party
Mm,
certification body and get an independent certification. And this external certification actually would be carried out on an annual basis,
mm,
which further improves the system, makes it robust and
mm.
flexible.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to know that. I've had another one from IMSM YouTube, so let me just put that on the screen for you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Are ISO standards compulsory? Is the question.
I see.
Hmm,
Okay, adherence to best practices and conformity to ISO standard is voluntary. Organizations may make their choice and decide on whether to implement a system, what system may be needed, and whether to certify it against the ISO standards applicable. Now, I'd like to bring to your attention something we already mentioned earlier, and this is the fact that your stakeholders may request for your organization to operate a management system
hmm,
and to be able to prove that the systems do conform to their requirements. And
yeah.
as we say, it's UK law as well as EU law since 2018 for some organizations to comply with the relevant international standards. Let me be clear here. We're talking organizations of a specific size that handle data
Mm,
or operate in the strategic sectors or, very important, are part of such a supply chain.
mm. Very relevant. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's just one more question, Maria. Another one from
Yeah.
YouTube. Let me just put this on the screen for you. And it
YouTube's getting
says,
popular.
I know it is today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, just well, we got loads of videos on there. I mean, I think I did a count the other day, and it was over 80. A lot of them live webinars, live sessions with various ISO specialists and experts from IMSM. So there's like a wealth of knowledge on there. So yeah, no wonder it's getting popular. But so
May I,
yes,
before
sorry,
before you ask, before yeah, thank you. You
yeah.
ask your question. May I just say and kind of show off? Sorry about that. That our customers and interested parties and people, public altogether, might benefit from some videos that you guys at marketing help to record or do live in different languages, in Spanish and French. These are very popular too.
Yeah. Oh, and it's wonderful. I think it's great because we have such a global presence. I think it's wonderful that we sort of have that, and we talk with different people from different countries, different languages, and it's what ISO is anyway, isn't it? It's an international standard. So to be able to call ourselves an international company, I think hits the nail right on the head as far as I'm concerned. But there we are. So, final question for you, Maria: what is the best approach to upskilling?
Thank you, Caroline. Well, I suspect that there might be as many valid approaches as organizations adhering to upskilling. The most important thing is to decide to go for upskilling. But personally, I think that there are two key factors to succeed. A, identify the interested parties, and we should not forget to account for all the bad people that are out there trying to hurt us,
Yes.
nor the good people who try to help. For
Mm.
instance, the authorities that are working hard to make sure businesses are protected. And B, get top management involved,
Yeah.
thus demonstrating commitment and leadership. And what I have just recommended
Mm.
is the ISO management system approach.
That sounds
Yeah.
very well said. Yes. I've
Thank you,
learnt a few things
Caroline.
this morning. Thank you.
Happy to have been helpful, Caroline. Thanks
I
for
think
asking.
they're always popular, the sessions, and I like it if somebody leaves comments underneath as well, because our live sessions, of course, are on Facebook, they're on LinkedIn and YouTube, and they remain there. So anybody who watches them has the opportunity afterwards to leave questions, and we always make sure that if anybody asks a question, we pass it to the relevant person. So like yourself, or we send it through to an ISO consultant or specialist. So anybody should feel free to leave questions. We're there to help. So,
Alternatively, there is always our email address, marketing@imsm.com, if you'd
yes,
like just to make a more personal comment. I mean, more customized
private. Yes.
comment. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So, I think, is that the end, Maria? Shall we call it a day? Thank you so
Yes, indeed.
much.
Thank you, Caroline. Always a
We'll see.
pleasure.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.